Hello, this is Angelia with today's wisdom. Today's wisdom comes from Daily Ohm. Opening to understanding, willingness to feel. And some people are not. Some people are very closed. They don't want to feel stuff for other people. They don't want to understand other people. And that really only holds you back. And you close your circle to only a handful of folks, and that's not very functional in a society. But unfortunately, nowadays, more and more people are doing that, and that's why we have a lot of fighting and problems in the world today, especially in our country. There are times when we may find ourselves struggling or even fighting with our thoughts and emotions. And I used to have that problem when I was, in my 30s and, early 40s, and I was like, because, I was taught that you had to be a certain way, and if you weren't a certain way, it was all about keeping up appearances. And I always felt like that was not good, that was fake, that you should be allowed to have your own thoughts and emotions and express them freely. I'm of the generation where we grew up watching where you and me are free to be you and me in school. So, we were being taught that it's okay. So, we may feel that something must be done in a certain way or not at all. And that's what I was taught too. There's a right way to do everything, and you do the right way. Well, like psychologists will tell you when you're raising kids, as long as it's getting done, that's the important thing. It doesn't have to be your way or your mom's way, your grandma's way, or whatever. As long as it's getting done, that's the important thing. So sometimes we get hung up on those things. Or there may be some other situation that feels absolutely black and white. And a lot of people feel that way about every little thing in their life. It's this or that, this or that. No. That's rarely true. Rarely true. I feel like the only black and white thing is basically, do you believe in God or not? It's, that's your choice there. Yes or no. But most other things in life, there are gray areas. There's not 100% black, 100% white on most issues and discussions. So, if you have that strict, narrow thinking, again, that's only going to hold you back. But life is not this way. It's the way we are looking at our experiences that is causing the turmoil within us. Again, if you're not willing to have dialogue with other folks, if you're not willing to compromise with other folks, if you're not willing, to have a discussion where someone might not agree with you 100%, and be okay with that, then that's going to cause you stress and turmoil within, because your thinking is so rigid. Again, like I said, it's just not all about you. When we become aware that the struggle we are having is with ourselves, we can turn our attention to the source in order to solve the problem. But we must be willing to look where we need to and feel emotions that may make us uncomfortable at first. And I know a lot of people who just didn't want to do the inner work. I had clients, most of my clients, they sailed through the programs and, did good and got their little certificates from me. But there were some who just, no, they wanted it their way. I mean, it's like, how's that way working for you? Is that working for you? Because you're coming here to see me, which tells me it's not working for you. So, yeah. And some people are just so stubborn and set in their ways. There's no compromise. There's no give. And like I say, that's going to keep you from having functional relationships with other people. Then we can choose to really open ourselves to understanding all the options we can imagine. And that's something I do when I talk to folks. I want to hear what they have to say, and ask questions, make sure I understand what they're saying. And then I, like other people, And again, sometimes we expect other people to be reasonable, but that's unreasonable. Because, like, the Buddhists say your expectations are what disappoint you. But I like for other people to listen to me fully, and to ask questions and understand me, because that's how you have dialogue. That's how you learn things about people, and you might learn something too. Because you don't know everything. I hate to be the one to break that to you if you don't already know that, but you don't. So, sometimes that is the sign of a person who has good communication skills. Is that you can speak, but you can also listen. If all you want to do is speak and then cut the other person off, zero communication skill there. So we are likely to discover that we are resisting something based on a limited understanding. Because again, you might know things, but you don't know everything. And you might understand some things, but you might not understand something somebody else is going through or talking about. So, when you speak down to someone like, you think you know it all and they don't know anything about what you're talking about, that's, dismissive and disrespectful. Because, if someone's talking about it, they probably do know something about it, or they wouldn't be talking about it. So, and we must then open ourselves to willingness. That's a key word right there in relationships. Any relationship, any discussion, willingness. You have to be willing to listen to the other person. Now, does that mean you have to be a doormat and let somebody repeatedly, run you over mentally and emotionally? No, it does not. But if you want to communicate with someone and have a relationship, then you have to be willing to listen to the other person and understand their point of view. Because if you can't do that, you're not going to have any relationships that are functioning on a decent level. When we are willing to look at all the possibilities, we also become willing to accept that there is room for more than we can imagine. Because, again, everybody has their own point of view. You're looking behind your eyes, you're looking out on the rest of the world. But other folks are living behind their eyes, and they're looking out from their own point of view. Everything goes to shaping your point of view and your mindset or your psyche. The way you were raised, the way kids treated you in school, what you did after school, everything you saw, heard, smelled, tasted, and felt has formed an opinion in your mind, in your psyche. And so yours is unique. Twins aren't even the same. So, if you're rigid in your thinking and, it's only your way, black and white, this is it, then I hate to be the one to tell you you're wrong, because everybody has their own experience. Now, again, if it's like a definition in a dictionary, there might just be one or two, and that can be, this is what it means, you got that definition wrong. But as far as other people's lives, their experience, their personality, their points of view, that can't be wrong, because that is their own unique experience. So, there is more in the world than you know, and if you can allow that into your mind, then you can make room for other people to have their own lives, and not the one you think they should have. We can release ourselves from the grip we had on our emotions and stop limiting ourselves. See, again, if you're living in your emotions, it's like this, it's like the old thing, a psychology experiment, which they have you do where, okay, let's see, I'm going to pick up this pen, I'm going to hold this pen like this. After a while, that gets uncomfortable, because I got a grip on it, and I have to grip it to hold it. So eventually, I'm going to let that grip go. I'm probably, going to drop the pen because it's uncomfortable. But if I hold my hand out like this, and I hold the pen like this, I can do this all day long. I can walk around with it in my hand like this all day long. Because, as the song goes, hold on loosely, but don't let go, because if you cling too tightly, you're going to lose control. That works for relationships, too. and, your emotions. If you're like this all the time, you're going to drop it. But if you can just allow it to have space and move around, you can hold that forever. So, your emotions are something that can be a problem in your life if you are a very emotional person. And if you are, and that has been a problem in your life, I recommend that you go talk to a mental health provider about that. And that will limit you. Because if, like I say, you got rigid thinking, you're all up in your emotions, and you can't allow other people to be other people, and you can't allow them to have their lives, that's going to limit you in the types and amounts and quality of relationships that you can have. We may have been unwilling to experience feeling loss. Some people, they keep people at arm's length so that if that person walks away, they don't have to feel that loss. I know there's people out there that call themselves lone wolves or whatever, and that's because they felt lost or hurt, and so they keep people at arm's length so they don't have to feel that again. And confusion. Sometimes other people get confused about other people. I have a friend, and she was brought up. She had a great family. It was just the idyllic childhood, and everything was great and rosy. And she got into the adult world, and not so much. So there was an adjustment there. But sometimes she has a problem seeing other people's point of view if it's not like hers. So sometimes she's a little confused about, relating to other people. And so sometimes she's learned, rather than get mad or say this is not that or that's not true or whatever, she's learned to ask questions. And when she asks questions, then she's realized that she says, oh, okay, well, I get it now. So that's a way that she's learned to combat the confusion that other people cause her. But really, it's her own way of thinking. But that's, like I said, her way of thinking. That's what has worked for her. So when other people are different, that was a problem for her. But she's learned to ask questions, and by asking questions, she learns things, and then she goes, oh, okay, I get it now. I see what you're saying. And that's what we should do in relationships with other people. So, if you feel confused, ask questions. It's how we learn things. Barney taught my kids that. So, fear. Some people are afraid. Some people's anxiety and fear run their life. And that's a shame. I had 2 women who were referred by other providers because they couldn't do anything with them. They thought maybe I could because they were survivors of abuse. But the anxiety level was so high. There are other folks who you can get them to work through their fears. You can talk through scenarios and have them, go out and walk around the street, like walk around the block one time. See, how that goes. Go to the store by yourself. So, little by little, you can get a lot of people to just reach out of the fear. I know you've seen like Dr. Phil or Maury or whatever shows where they bring in things that people are scared of, like snakes or spiders, make them hold them or whatever. And that's the best way to do that, is to expose yourself to whatever it is that you're afraid of. And exposure, brings the fear level down. Here in the good old USA, there's a fear level of the other, the different. And that's because some of our older folks didn't grow up around. My husband's family grew up in a very isolated area of Kentucky, and there were no people who didn't look like them. So when his parents moved out to here, which is a big city in this state, there was a little culture shock because they had different people who didn't look like them, and they didn't know how to relate to them, and they were scared of the other. And so a lot of that goes on. But with exposure to other folks, you learn they're pretty much the same as you. Everybody's pretty much the same as you. They just want to have a good, happy life, feel loved, have a happy family, and, a roof over their head, clothes, food, the basic stuff. So if a fear is something that's holding you back, it's time to get over that. Get out there, expose yourself to whatever it is you're afraid of, and you overcome that. Or even joy for some reason or another. Some people are scared to be happy. There are people who are scared to be happy. They've been sad, depressed, or whatever for so long, the idea of reaching out for their own happiness is too scary. They don't want to do it. You know, what if I succeed? You know, and that's what I heard a psychologist say one time, that the fear of failure is not as great as the fear of success. That people hold themselves back because they're scared. What if I do make it? What if, you know, I get too much attention? What if I, you know, get this and people are jealous of me or whatever? And in all honesty, I had that thought when I started out, you know, on my own, started, you know, the ministry that I ran for 17 years. But I overcome it because I exposed myself to it and did it because I realized it was a fear. And I was like, I'm not going to have it. So that's how you got to do it. But when we realize that our understanding was limited, we allow space for the universe to move in our lives. And let's face it, your understanding is limited. Mine is too. Because we're not God. God knows everything. Jesus probably knows everything. Except for, you know, when God's going to say, come on down and fix this mess. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. But there are people who kind of think, I think they really think that they know everything. So that's a little mentally ill, honestly. But if you allow space to understand another person, then you can realize that it's okay. It's okay to not know everything about everyone, because nobody does. You know, you don't live in another person's head, so you can't know everything about them just by what you see. I forgot what the percentage is, but I think the percentage is like you show other people like maybe 12% of who you are. You know, you can Google that if you want to know for sure. But yeah, we show a very small percentage of ourselves to other folks. The rest of it's going on in here. So, you know, if you want things to change, you have to change them. Opening ourselves to willingness may feel like we are surrendering or abandoning all that we believed. And some people feel like that. If they allow for other opinions or even other kinds of people, that they're surrendering or giving up what they believe in. And that's 100% poo-poo. So, you know, you're not surrendering anything. That was what you knew, and then you can learn new things. You know, like I said, that's something Barney taught the kids also is, if you want to learn something, ask questions. And that's what I taught our kids in preschool and coming up. You know, that's how we learn things. So if you want to overcome your fear, you need to ask questions and learn to understand other people's ways or points of view. So, you know, you're not surrendering anything. You're not abandoning anything. You're just learning more. And as the saying goes, if we learn better, we do better. So, you know, the scarcity, we were talking about that in Bible, about how Israel, you know, had the bad scarcity mindset. Well, there are people here who still have that, a very conservative scarcity mindset, and that does not serve you in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, it is an act of power and courage, and that's because you're taking the power of your own life. You're not letting what other people pre-conventionally taught you. You're going out on your own and learning for yourself, and that is powerful, and that does take courage, because it is a conscious choice we make about how to apply our personal will, because that's it. You're not just taking your forebears' words for everything, because something new is learned every day. If you're going on what they learned, what they thought, okay, well, that was back then, and now we know better things. So, you know, there would be no progress in medicine or science or life in general if everyone worked that way. So, you know, when you make conscious choices to improve your life, then that is powerful. You're exercising your will not just going with what you were told was the way. Being willing is to be in a state of willing something into creation. So if you want something to be, you have to create it by your own will. Like I say, no one's going to drop nothing in your lap. I mean, that's very rare. I mean, I've heard that has happened. But, certainly no one's dropped anything in my lap. I had to go out and make it happen. So, that is mostly the way that's done. It is at once allowing ourselves to be while also choosing to direct our energy in a focused way. Because if you're goal oriented, y'all know my tongue, then you focus your will and you do what it is you want to do. You take the steps necessary. It's like I used to tell my clients, make an outline, and you might have A, B, C, D. And then once you get into doing these things, you start on A, you realize there's an A1. And then once you do A1, you realize there might be an A1A. And you go on about it. But, you have an idea of how to do this thing that you want to do. It is being and doing from a place of openness. And that's the big thing there. You have to be open to change if there's going to be any change. If you want to be something different, if you want to do something different, there has to be change. And you have to be open to that change in order to do it. Where we can work with the universe rather than resist it. And I say God. Some people say the universe. I say God. Because, like the Israelites, if you resist what He wants for you in your life, it's not going to happen, is it? He generally gives you free will. He don't drag you kicking and screaming. The outcome, I believe, is going to be what He wants it to be. Now, the road can be easy or the road can be hard. And that's what I believe. That's why the Israelites was in the desert 40 years. But that nation got made, whether they liked it or not. So, you can work with the universe for an outcome, or you can fight it every step of the way. It's up to you. I know which I choose. It is an open hand rather than one that is clutched into a fist. Oh yeah, remember that exercise we just did? Oh no. Yeah. There we go. So again, to quote the song, hold on loosely but don't let go, because if you cling too tightly, you're going to lose control. Sometimes there's even lessons in rock songs. When we make a step toward willingness, we open ourselves to truth, because we're willing to learn. And that's how you learn the truth, is if you're willing to learn and have dialogue and things, then you learn the truth. Possibility. Again, things don't have to be one certain way that you want them to be and the way you've always done things. There's the possibility that there can be new things and that things can be done a different way. Now, as we age, we start to see that because our body changes and we have to adapt. New things have to become a different way of doing things. When I was a kid, I just grabbed my socks, shoop, threw them on. Can't do that anymore. Now, I have to extend the leg on the bed, bend the knee, and have the foot close to the thigh so that I can slide that sock on. So there's been some adaptation. So I know that things are possible if you adapt and learn and grow. But if I gave up and said, well, I just can't do it, then, I'd have to rely on somebody else. And that was not working for me. So, I make things work for me how I can do them. And the movement of the wise universe, or God, in and through our lives. Because, like I say, you got to be flexible. And I don't know if any of y'all watch Mulan, Disney's Mulan, where they talk about, being like the willow, instead of rigid. Because if you're rigid, like a tree in the tornado, bam, you're going down. Because your rigidness won't let you be flexible. Stuff hits you like a, big shear of wind on against a hard tree that don't bend, and you get knocked over. So, if you're a little more flexible and you can let that winds of life, just sway you a little bit, and then you come back to center, you're going to be much better off. So, if you're open to understanding, if there can be dialogue, if there can be questions asked so you can understand better, if you're willing to feel your feelings and to feel other people's too, because I was told by a psychologist that I'm an empath, that I feel other people's feelings, and to a certain degree that is true. Moods rub off on me. I can feel when other people are giving off a funky vibe, and I'm like, whoa. So but you have to be willing to feel your feelings in order to navigate them. So once you can do that, and let that be something that you're willing to experience, your life is going to be a much easier, less painful place. Think about it. That's all for now. Oh my gosh. My brain stalled a minute. It's been cold. I don't like cold. But anyway, please like and share this wisdom so we can spread it around the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. The link to that is in my posts. Thanks for watching. That's all for now. Until next time.